Hello. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our ITaC working group session. Thank you for your time today, and there will be eats and drinks afterwards for those that I had to rush. Apologies. Today we're going to be covering the trading firm structure from a trading perspective, obviously trading drop copy functionality. We are doing a little bit more on the collateral management, and then we'll have a session for questions. The working groups are progressing quite nicely. We have combined some of them just to ensure that there's enough content to cover in a specific session. So that's today's sessions. Next week's session is still going ahead. It is really going to be a clearing focused session. We will be covering the user access and firm structure, or entity structure as we like to call it. We're going to be covering deal management in a little bit more detail, and we're going to be covering the margin methodology. So it's a high-level walkthrough of the margin methodology. The service hotline will go out later today. I just didn't want to get the invite out when we were still trying to get this one off the ground. So that will go out today. Then included in the pack, I have just included the timeline slide so that you guys are reminded of the anticipated timelines. As we get more detail and as we refine the different timelines for the different phases, so we will give you an update. Included in the pack is our standard trading, clearing, reference data and market data pick. This is your equity trading information system and your trading, your derivatives trading. And the area that Martin's specifically going to focus on today is the little orange box, the drop copy. Okay, I do have a pointer. Oh, I moved it forward. Okay. So without further ado, I'm really going to just hand over to Martin. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Morning, everyone. Welcome again. As Sandra mentioned, we're going to look at drop copy, and also we're going to include the post trade. More on how do you connect to those, and what do they enable you to do? So how can you utilize them fully as a clearing and as a trading member? So to start off with, some similar slide that you're aware of already. What type of gateways will be available across all our trading streams? Come ITaC go live. We'll have the equity market trading native gateway. Everything will be there except for equity derivatives and currency derivatives, the two ends there. We won't have fixed trading, so there'll only be native trading gateways for the market. As per usual, slides just in there to recapture. What are we going to talk about? The high-level proposed solution. We spoke about firm structures and trader groups and interface users. So effectively, how are we going to set up your firm to be able to do trading, and the clearing members, how they will be able to connect to the system. The drop copy functionality, the logical flow and permission tables, the same, pretty much identical, but just for trade copy. One's on your order executions, the other one will be on trades, and then your comp ID naming convention or your interface users. And then topics for discussion later. They don't need to be discussed, but they're just topics we asking for a bit of feedback after the session, maybe in an email or so forth, but we'll get to that. Right, to start off with, the firm structure. How do we structure the firm? Basically, the firm consists of both the trading members and a clearing member. We don't, on the system, differentiate between you being a clearing or a trading member logically. It is the same instance. You will just have a different naming standard. So you will be called something different. The system doesn't see you independently in that sense because it's purely the trading engine. Obviously, downstream in all our master data systems, you'll be identified as a clearing or a trading firm quite clearly. It's just on the system, it doesn't identify you as anything different. There's no vast difference. So if you're connecting as a trading member and you're doing all the logic and logging in and connecting to drop copy and all those things, you do the same as a clearing member. The logic doesn't change. All right. The same goes for market data subscribers. Those of you already subscribing to our market data on the equity market and trading, there's no difference on how we set you up or create you. We just change the roles and the permissionings for you. We have a concept of trader groups, which are a logical grouping of users. We'll get into what users are, and effectively they are split into interface users with login abilities and your traders or dealers, and they don't have a login ability. So that's quite a clear thing, I think, that changes from the current system. You'll have to note that interface users, the comp IDs, will log into the system, create the connection, and the traders are just another user that is facilitated through the comp ID. To action the trading. So you will not have every user logging in because that's too many logins. We keep it down to the interface users. But we'll get into that view effectively as we discuss. So you have your firm. We're calling the firm, the trading firm, ABCD for simplistic reasons. We are going to look at using current trading alpha codes. So those alpha codes that you are aware of, your member code and so forth, we're going to use that potentially to add into the firm with a few more identifiers. But that will get into a session when we do enablements and so forth, exactly how we can name it. So how does this work? You have your trader groups or your levels of trader groups. Effectively, there's the interface user group in blue and then your trader groups in green. What this means is they are all on a trader group level. It doesn't necessarily mean they are all trading from that level. So to explain, your interface user group will have all of the comp IDs or your interface users in the group. So those that log in. All the other trader groups with the naming will have all the different traders populated underneath them. So if we look at the naming convention, which we'll get into in a second, you are logically splitting your trader group. You're creating your trader group on a maybe what type of trading they're doing, maybe what location trading they're doing. Also, it's not necessarily meaning that you have to pick one trader group. You can, but you can split it logically as in how you really feel. We'll get into the naming now. What you will notice, however, is they are all trader IDs or dealers will be under every trader group. So we populate them from the JSC's perspective. They will be in every trader group, meaning you'll be able to transact with that trader through the comp ID into the trading engine on all trader groups. It is up to the firms or / software providers to permission who is allowed to trade in what user group. The logic behind this is really, let's pretend these three green trader groups explain that there's a Gauteng office, a Cape Town one, and a Durban office. And if you have traders, if we permission traders based on trader 3, for instance, is in Durban, now he moves to Cape Town, we don't want to go through the hassle of you having to phone us and now saying he must now only be put in that trader group and the admin nightmare around it. You can move and change and swap them around as is. I mean, sometimes maybe a trader moves desks from hard to soft commodities or anything like that. The change is immediate. We don't have to action anything. So we're really trying to look at not making your life harder from an enablement purpose. So like I explained, these are all users. So you'll see that on the same level, your ABCDA, which is a comp ID or an interface user, is exactly the same as a trader, like the trader 1, 2, or 3. They're all considered users. The difference that comes into play is the roles that we permission for each of these users is different. All of the comp IDs here, they will have a permission to log in, and that permission will be deactivated for all of the traders. So just so you understand a bit more from our background, they're all on the same user level. And as we mentioned, all of your traders and dealers will appear in all trader groups. Okay, that was for a trading member. Now for clearing members or information subscribers, it's effectively the same thing, except you will not have any dealers. So this just reiterates that there is not a fundamental difference between you as a trading, information subscriber, or clearing member on how you access and log into the system. Just to put this into words, trader groups are not the same as branches, and they're used exclusively for trader ID or dealer grouping on the trading engine. So you have the concept of branches currently. That is part of a clearing stream. That is part of how you will do clearing. Trader groups will simply mean you can decide how you want to place traders, in what trader groups, in what logical order, and so forth. An overall interface user group will contain all the comp IDs, as was that blue interface user group we saw. All trader groups will have all the traders, and we will have predefined codes for trader groups, which we'll go through now. So the naming convention for these trader groups will be, we're taking example again, you've got your interface user group and another trader group. We'll just look at the first one. ABCD, that already tells us who the member is by that. Your alpha code, the PRONWN1, will work as follows. First 4 characters will be the broker alpha code. Your next few characters will be the type. We've used primary broking here just as an example. And your software is owned. This is assuming it's an owned software developer. And your number literally 1 to what instance of this. You might want to have 3 or 4 or 5 different instances of the same naming convention, and that number will help you do it. So the description, as I said, ABCD prime broking on owned software. That's what it means. It helps us to assist you further on any issues that you might experience when you phone into our client support center. You give us the trader, you give us this trader group standard, and we can already identify what type of software or where you are coming from, because we have certain standards as well between outside of Colo, inside of Colo, and so forth. So it helps us to assist you a bit further. Another example below is also ABCD, PRI, I, and then XYZ. So this is just showing that your software provider is now an XYZ. And what we'll do is we'll have predefined codes. They will be updatable and changeable as and when new software providers come along and you decide to give us more codes. And we're really open to any type of trader group that you might want to put down as a standard. So we'd have an enablement form that we'd send you, and you would pick from a list under this type of trader group. Just to go through the codes that we currently have. So what we already have in the system for the equity market also is we've already got an ALG, meaning algorithmic trading, your BSK basket trading, and so forth, as you can see. So any new requests, anything that you might want to split a group that you can see using in the future more and more often, you can gladly advise us and we'll start incorporating that into the system. On the software side, the green side, we don't want to name or shame anyone at the moment, so we've got random names here. We've got JHB, for instance, will be Johannesburg Software Company, Midlands Development, and so forth. So that comes into this character 8 to 10. Again, as and when software providers get accredited and you want a different code or so forth, let us know what the code is and we'll put it into our documentation for everyone to see and pick from when trader groups get created. Okay, then we're moving on to the interface users, how to log into the gateways. Let's take our derivatives trading system, the yellow bit we have sitting at the JSE, and we have your trade IDs or dealers in the cloud out there in the market waiting to access the system. They will consult or log in with the software providers using Compi IDs. So this purple or red block here is software providers logging in, or the systems logging in on behalf of traders using interface user groups. So the groups that we explained earlier with the blue heading, ABCDA, you're logging in through that Comp ID into our trading gateway, and you'll be interacting through that Comp ID straight to the trading engine. All right, so as we explained, traders are not logging in, they are merely making use of a Comp ID that is logged in through a native trading gateway to interact on the equities market, derivatives market. So there in red again at the bottom, trade IDs submit orders or trades through Comp IDs that are logged into the trading gateways. It's just maybe a different way of thinking, might not be that different, but it's something we wanted to highlight to you. So then logging into the gateways again, native gateways, we'll have 3 as you can see, so there'll be 3 different instances. What this means, it'll probably come down to 3 different IP addresses you are going to target from a technical perspective. You're going to have your different Comp IDs. We've split them up. This is by no means already set in stone or completely done. We are just anticipating how we're going to do the system, how we're sort of going to design the system as we go along. And we're going to look at creating Comp IDs per market. So we'll have an EDM Comp ID, an IR Comp ID, FX and so forth, and CDM and global Comp ID, so that we are really creating a Comp ID as per market. It might help you guys to identify easier who's logged in and what is logged in. You know it's a CDM market logged in. Again, for our support, we'll get into the naming standards a bit later. For the support team, if they see a naming convention, they see this Comp ID is logged into CDM, it already eliminates all other markets. We can focus on a specific gateway. How this will work is your EDM Comp ID will log in and interact with the EDM market separately through the first gateway. The same will then happen for IR, FX, and fixed income. They'll use the same native gateway but trade on different markets. And then commodities and global will be moved on to trade onto similar markets through one native gateway. Now, what this means is your Comp ID is not now permissioned to only log into a certain market, it's also permissioned to hit a certain gateway. Reason, we could have gone with one gateway in the middle, but that would mean we have a bit of we have less redundancy than 3. Anyone trading pure commodities and pure equities would use the same gateway. If there's a failure potentially on it, everyone would be affected by it. So splitting the gateways into 3 different groupings eliminates that risk a bit further, and then further splitting the markets into different Comp IDs, or the Comp IDs per market. You can log in with a EDM Comp ID knowing full well that that's the only thing you can trade and interact with on that Comp ID. Rather than having one Comp ID which is is very possible to log into all of these markets. Restrictions on this also include order rates. Should you exceed an order rate and get locked out by the markets, that's our sort of pre-trade risk things we'll get into a bit later, you would lock out this comp ID that is now accessing the whole market, and all your markets are being affected because of some major rise on the EDM market or the currency market, which has no impact on maybe the commodities market. So in this way, we feel we are splitting the risk across different logins, different gateways, and linking it to a market. Again, we welcome comments if you see a better way of doing this, but this is the proposed solution at the moment. Now, the same thing works with the login to the gateways for the drop copy gateway. We will have one drop copy service. You might ask why we're not splitting this service apart. It's because it is not as, trading is obviously our main concern and main priority. How we do split it though is, again, by market, we're going to allow you to trade, to log in from different comp IDs on a market level again. So it's the same logic as the trading comp IDs logging in. It's just for the drop copy gateway now, how you log in. Again, per market, accessing a certain market on the derivatives trading engine side. We'll go through the logical flow now of a trading member when you are trading and how that works with the drop copy. So let's take our trading engine. We've indicated the trading gateway and the drop copy just overlaid on across that orange spot. So basically you will be entering through each of these to get into the trading engine and the matching system. Introduce our firm, trading firm with numerous comp IDs. This client, for instance, is only trading in your derivative EDM, IRC, and CDM market. Connect straight into the trading gateway and onto the trading engine. So that is how trading will be facilitated. 3 logins, 3 different sessions, three different comp IDs to get in there. What we'll have then is a set of permission tables, which we'll get into more detail a bit later. On a very high level, what these do is they take the messages that have flown from those trader IDs and they send them out through the drop copy to the comp IDs that are logged in. So you'll see the logical flow on the colors. EDM trader, EDM comp ID comes in on the blue, hits the permission tables. They tell him that this is a comp ID that belongs to firm ABC. Hence, please copy all of his execution reports to this drop copy which is logged in. So the client in the morning will come in, log on to all of these 6 comp IDs, establish a session, heartbeats flow, and the trading will happen through the top part. And then as and when execution reports, now just remember again, it's not execution reports as in trades, it's anything that happens to your order. So order comes in here, new order, it gets an execution report back saying to that comp ID, thank you, I've got your new order. At the same time, the permission table tells the system to send it to your drop copy. So you can have, you've got 2 sessions running in parallel that get this execution report. And for obvious reasons, you can use these in numerous ways where you would just want to see a feed of all the executions happening throughout the day. And we'll get into that, how that links in with a clearing member, potentially. So like we said, each trading member connects to the drop copy gateway to receive real-time execution reports. Same thing for the drop copy functionality on logical flow from a clearing member. Again, introduce the trading system and the gateways from the exchange point of view, and now we have a clearing firm that has all comp IDs, connects to all markets, clears for all markets, but separately across comp ID logins, just logically. How will this work? Again, we have permission tables in the system. A permission table will tell the orders that are received to be sent to a certain clearing member comp ID. All right, we'll get into exactly the linking of both of these. Where does it come from? Doesn't matter at the moment. It just means that we are telling the clearing firm logs into the drop copy gateway, just like the trading member did, and receives these execution reports on certain permissions that we will set up and get into a bit later. So clearing member again connects to drop copy and receives those live execution reports. Okay, so now the logic for flow incorporating the two between trading member and the clearing member. Again, take the JEC systems with its 2 gateways, introduce your clearing and trading firm, clearing on the right, CLRG, and then trading on left and right. Add the permission tables, which are crucially important to perform this activity. So here you see the blue arrow, trading on the EDM market through the EDM comp ID, goes into the permission tables and drop copies a copy to the EDM drop copy ID at the clearing firm. So this is this is your trading firm, you've got your clearing member, you permission him through these tables here to receive all execution reports onto that drop copy gateway. drop copy comp ID. And the same will happen for all of the other markets as and when you trade anything, add new orders, any executions happen, they will be copied by telling within these permission tables to tell you where it should go to what firm. So we're assuming in this instance that we have one firm that trades everything, all markets, and gets cleared by one firm across all markets. Just an assumption and an example. Just another example on this to make it a bit clearer. Introduce our trading engine again and 4 different firms. So you've got firm A, B, and then firm ZZZ9. Sorry if you can't see this. What we're going to do is if your alpha code or your member code is less than 4 characters, we'll always add a 9 into the code to uniquely identify you. But again, that'll be a discussion on enablements we'll get into. Introducing your clearing firm on the left. This firm, for instance, now is only clearing for EDM and only IR, and it's got the drop copy ID. Your firms are all trading across these 3 markets. So EDM, RC, and CDM, they'll trade identically. They're just 2 different members. And introduce another clearing firm that's only going to clear for the CDM market. So 2 firms trading identical markets, 2 firms, clearing 2 different, a different set of markets each time, mutually exclusive. Now the flow again happens as the same. Both members trade on EDM and both of the execution reports or the logical flow get sent to the EDM drop copy at the firm that they are clearing with. Similar process for the IR market. Both trade and it goes to that comp ID. Because of the permissioning tables, it gets sent across there. Same thing happens on now the CDM market, but however we don't send it to that firm because they're not the clearing member, it gets sent to this drop copy at the bottom. So this is just incorporating firm trading and then being cleared and receiving the real-time drop copies. Okay. Again, we have to maybe highlight this is just from a trading perspective. It by no means tells you how to do clearing. That's on the real-time clearing side. It has nothing to do with that. It's just a view for the clearing member real-time of what a trading member is up to. Okay, so let's look into the detail of just what the drop copy functionality will offer you when you receive these reports. So what is the clearing member actually receiving without knowing what trading information or what the trading member is up to? On your execution reports, again, you'll see they'll be sent to the drop copy comp ID in real time. So real time, we're meaning a couple of microseconds delay between the execution going to the trading comp ID and the drop because it has to do the thinking in the permission tables. There's a tag because we're talking about a fix protocol we're using. Tag 115 is called on behalf of comp ID. So this will be an identifier in the header of each execution report that tells you where it came from. So you as a clearing member, for instance, can see this field will tell you exactly which member or which comp ID it came from for you to identify and maybe put into different buckets or baskets. So a drop copy comp ID can connect per market and receive execution reports on behalf of numerous comp IDs across various trading members. So you can log in with one comp ID on the EDM market, let's say, receive all execution reports for 10 members that you are clearing for, or just one member and then you have numerous comp IDs. Maybe you want to split them up per member, but our suggestion is have one comp ID, receive all the information, and then change it in your systems and bucket it. Again, all execution reports will also identify the firm, the trader group, and the trader ID they were coming from. So it becomes quite important now. The trader ID is quite simple. That doesn't change a lot. You'll always have the same trader ID. But the trader group now becomes quite an interesting characteristics on this execution report because it can tell you a lot of things depending on how you've set up your trader group naming. So if you have special naming standards that you'd like to use, it can help you by sending this to the clearing member to see, he looks at those, remember the characters 5, 6, and 7 to tell you if it's primary broking, where it's from, or so forth. It can really help maybe the clearing member or yourself. Okay, we're going to go through the trade copy. We'll go through this in a bit faster. Effectively, we've looked at the drop copy gateway. Now we're going to look at the post-trade gateway, the trading side. So these are trade reports that you'll be receiving, all executions that have effectively matched. We'll go through it quickly. Again, we're introducing the trading gateway and your post-trade gateway on the system. Introduce the 3 comp IDs for trading and post-trade. The logical flow is identical to the drop copy. It is just going through a different gateway. We used to have drop copy here. Now we've got fixed trading. So nothing really changes. Permission table is still used and real-time trade capture reports are sent to these comp IDs logged in from the member. So identical flow, so we'll go through it a bit quicker on the post-trade gateway. Please note, it is on the post-trade gateway now, and you will be getting trade capture reports, TCRs in short. Clearing member will work the same. Again, introduce the trading engine and member firm with all of its, again, assuming this is a member that clears for all markets, and you'll have one comp ID per market, logs in and receives those trade capture reports in real time as well. Logical flow will incorporate just the one firm for now, one firm, trading member, clearing member clears for all of the markets. Again, same thing. The only difference is your post-trade gateway and not drop copy gateway. Similar thing. All right. And then the last example of clearing for different areas. Again, same thing will happen. The two trading firms trade on one market, and the trade capture reports will be sent per clearing member on what market they might clear for you. So nothing different there. The difference comes in for you will be receiving trade capture reports real time. The trade information will reside in these trade capture reports. They are much longer than the execution reports. And again, as per the last point, you'll see all of your trading party block will be in. So you'll identify the firm, the trader group, and trade ID. These are the TCRs are reports that get sent to you for match deals. So this is a trade, and you can use this to move on into any risk management from a trade perspective. The other things were just orders and the status of their order. Same thing in the third bullet point is a post-trade comp ID can connect per market, and you receive TC on behalf of numerous comp IDs. So again, you decide, you log in once, and you get through the permissioning table trade copies from numerous trading firms as a clearing member. Right, let's go into this permission table we've been speaking about. So zooming into the permission table, what are we speaking about there? In theory, what we do is we will take a clearing member, and so a clearing member comp ID, clearing member comp ID, clear, and a firm comp ID. So anything with CLRG means it's a clearing comp ID. This one logs in, it'll be called like this. It'll be named CLRG X1. The X will identify what a gateway it's logged in. We'll get to that in a second. But effectively, all we do is on a comp ID, I'm going to enter a firm that's called ABC, and I'm telling the system that for this clearing comp ID, please copy all of either the trade capture reports or the drop copy execution reports. Copy all of those to that comp ID from these three firms, and that's how the permissioning will happen. So we'll do it on a firm level. The reason we do it on a firm level is this comp ID can only log into the EDM market anyway, so it will only copy all of the EDM activity from these firms across to that comp ID. Okay, this is maybe getting into a bit too much detail at this moment, but that's how we will do it, and that's how logically the system will never send you anything that you're not allowed to see or the clearing member might not be allowed to see. Second example as well, we've got the same firm now, but clearing through a different comp ID, and you see this firm is not present there, so it means they are obviously clearing whatever Y stands for, let's call it commodities, through a different comp ID. So that's just how the permissioning will work. And in words, a trading member clears with one clearing member per market, and the permissions are set on a firm level. The restrictions exist on the comp ID level. Like I said, the comp ID can only log into a drop copy session that is per market. So that's where we get our permissioning from. Again, the permission table on instrument groups, because this is how we will set up our markets. On the comp ID, you will have a login, and it'll allow you to log into a certain market, and the market will tell you what instrument groups are you allowed to trade. We have a similar table, so all we are going to do for a comp ID, like you saw the one we had earlier, this comp ID, for instance, is only allowed to trade on the EDM options market and the EDM futures market, and it gets denied access to all of the other markets. We've just called them CDM 1, 2, R, and so forth. These naming conventions will be changed and edited in the future and so forth, as and when we need to do certain things on instrument groups differently. For instance, trade in different decimals or anything that pertains to a group of instruments that behave differently from another group. So effectively what we're saying here is an X means you're going to only be able to log into the EDM market. Even though there's two different groups, it combines it per market. We've just segmented the groups a bit further, and there's just for words explaining what we've done. The last one, this is now, you can see it's CCC 9, so that's not a clearing member, that's a trading member. Again, that trading member will only be able to log in and have permissioning to do anything on the FX market. Okay, so instrument groups will initially be set up at the highest level, and as required, we will break them down further into numerous groups, but still keep them on a market level going forward. Comp ID naming convention quickly, so that we can identify in a fast way if there are any issues, or you can identify by just looking at a comp ID what this comp ID is used for, or potentially where it logs into. The comp ID is made up of the member alpha, the type, number, and letter. Similar convention to what the trader groups went through. You have your alpha, ABCD for a trading firm, type is X, number is just an iteration of how many there are, and this basically means it's an EDM trading CAN user. CAN stands for Client Access Network, so you're not coming from a co-location login. It is quite important for us to distinguish between the two. Different teams and different levels of support are needed for CAN and colo access. The second one, if we just go through, the alpha is a firm called LKGG. The type is X again, and the number is A. Now the A denotes that this is coming from co-location. So you'll be able to quickly see, are you logging in from Client Access Network or co-location? The member can see that as well by just looking at the last letter. All letters will be co-location, all numbers will be from outside, as we call it. And then the same, just a couple of more examples. The second one is CDM trading. So you see the Y has now changed. It's an identifier, and the same for Z. We'll just have to edit that because it's actually per market. And what we'll do is when we get into the enablements discussion, when we show you exactly how we need you to complete forms and the process and so forth, we will give you a table that will stay static. That means X will always be EDM, Y will always be CDM, and so forth. This goes across Comp ID, so it goes across the trading gateways, the native trading gateways. It goes across drop copy, post trade, the market data gateways. You'll be able to identify each of those as per the table we'll get into in a session closer to time. Now this is the to be discussed option. I'd like you please to maybe think about this a bit further. What we have in the derivative market is we've got instruments that are created intraday. Now intraday created instruments are unfortunately not able to have ISIN codes, or are, but it's more of a process for us to actually introduce ISIN codes to an intraday created instruments. The question we want to have is, ISINs are not currently used on the derivative markets. You'll be familiar with them on the equity market. We are introducing them on the derivatives market. They are uniquely identified across markets. It's to be discussed and confirmed our end, but what we're looking at doing is creating a unique set of ISINs per market, naming convention, probably the first 3 letters, changing it from the equity one with ZAE maybe to something like ZAO for options, ZAF for futures. We'll come up with a naming convention. However, they will not be immediately available once the instrument is created intraday, but as part of end of day, because what happens is the client will submit a message that says, create this instrument, please. The system creates it, and as we spoke about before, is you only trade on an instrument ID being a number. It's a unique number that the instrument has. So, for instance, Anglo on the equity market is 119. That's the only thing the trading engine knows and cares about, because we're trying to keep it small. We don't want to bog it down with reference data that it isn't needed to trade. In our reference data downstream in our systems, those values do appear. On the intraday upload, it can go and grab that information, upload it, and update the instrument. But upon first creation, within that first microsecond, you will not have an ISIN. I know it's maybe a bit much at the moment, but if you could maybe think about, will this be an impact? Do you use ISINs across markets? How are they utilized in any way? And your thoughts on this would be appreciated. Thank you. I think we'll keep questions for at the end if you've jotted them down, and I'll hand over to the clearing stream. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Willem Keys. I'm a business analyst for the JSE. I've been working on Collateral and the solution that we've come up with Straight, who's sitting here in front. And what we want to take you through today is a little bit of some of the processes that we have come up with, and now everything will work together. Of course, we've got the JSE, we've got the CSDPs, we've got Straight, we've got clearing members, everyone involved in these processes, and just try to give you a sense of where we are. What I maybe a bit different to Martin is to ask you to stop me if there's a question, because from our point of view, we've been going through these flows and discussions like a million times. So I might become a bit blasé about some of them, but stop me if I lose you, and I can just maybe reiterate some of the details for you. So just to give you a bit of context, with the increase in regulatory requirements, we found that a lot of the members have got a great deal of pressure to have to be more efficient with their funds, and this is where the need for different types of collateral comes in. So currently the JSE is only accepting ZAR cash as part of initial margin requirements. And what we are proposing is to expand this so that as part of phase 1, we will then accept securities as well as bonds, certain securities and bonds, as well as FX for our foreign-based clients. If we look at the securities, at this point we're thinking of maybe top 40 shares on the JSE, and even a subset of that, very liquid and the highly traded equities. And then also bonds, typically also your liquid government bonds. That's what we're thinking of. Foreign currency, as I said, it's what we're trying to cater for you, and this is still discussions we're having with the SARB, is to have our foreign-based clients post ZAR the FX as collateral, which is USD, GBP, and Euro that we're thinking of. No drachmas at this point. We will consider that later point. And also, so those are still being discussed. And so currently, if a foreign-based client would need to post these FX with an authorized dealer, and then for IM purposes or margin, the authorized dealer would convert that into ZAR and post that to the JSE. So what we're proposing now is to actually have the physical commodities come through to the JSE. So we'll have our own accounts for the different currencies. And obviously, this is our thinking at this point as our understanding and the market's understanding of these types of collateral become more mature, we can look to expand and change on this. So from the JSE side, what we'll do is, the first thing we do is we'll have a minimum percentage that we'll set for collateral. That's a ZAR percentage. So even though we're introducing the possibility for you to bring up different types of collateral, there will always be a portion of your collateral that has to be in ZAR. We will set the eligibility criteria, which basically means we will tell you which of the securities and the different types of bonds and FX we will accept. And there might also be other limitations on exactly how much of each of those you could pledge. We'll value the collateral on a daily basis, and even intraday we'll value those collateral. And then obviously we will apply haircuts that we would calculate, and the haircuts that we are using will also be in the straight system that is managing the securities. So we would always be in sync with straight. So what we're trying to provide to the members is the ability to manage as long as you've posted the minimum cash amount in ZAR, then you can manage the mix of securities that you want to pledge, whether that be securities or different types of FX. Just following on that, so we'll use the pledge construct. That just allows us to avoid having to generate dividend payments and avoid STT tax. It's just a simpler method for us. As I said, we will use Straight and their product from Clearstream to facilitate the securities being pledged on a daily basis and even intraday. And then part of the requirements is that all of the clients that want to pledge these securities will need to open a segregated depository account with Straight. So if we look at our processes, we've got an end of day process and an intraday process. And the thinking here is that the intraday process is not a copy of the end of day process. it's got a slightly separate function. So as part of end of day, the main focus there is we will calculate your new margin requirement for you, and then send that requirement to Straight, and that'll allow you the possibility to then pledge how much of that requirement you want to cover with your securities or your FX. So that's the main focus of the end of day, and that's the main run. What we've got for intraday, we call it the intraday batch process, and that's really to allow the client to manage this mix of his collateral, how he wants to either increase his securities, withdraw cash, maybe, or withdraw some of the FX that has been pledged. And that will typically happen. So we also want to cater for the fact that a lot of the assets that can be posted as security, they are settling during the day. So what might not have been available last night as part of our end of day might become available to you the following morning. And then at 11 or 12, we then allow you the possibility to pledge those securities. And once again, reduce your pressure on your ZAR. And as you can see, the margin requirement for that day will stay constant. So we'll only calculate and update that as part of our end of day. Again, the next end of day. But during the day, that margin requirement stays constant, and you're just updating your mix and your makeup of your securities. So let's have a look at this end of day process now. So some of the participants we've got here, we've got the JSE itself, the clearing members, we've got Straight collateral management system, and then the authorized dealer and the settlement bank where the actual payments happen. So what we do is when our end of day process starts, we calculate the margin, and then we go to the clearing members for them to balance to make sure that they're happy with what we've got in your portfolio. This is part of what we do today as well. So where this then changes is in the next step. What we do now is we calculate of this amount that we calculate, how much of that are we willing to take in securities. And that's where our minimum ZAR percentage comes in. Once we've calculated that amount, we send it to Straight, and Straight then runs their algorithm to determine of all the securities that the client's got available and the haircuts that's implied, what do they feel is the best set of securities to pledge if there's anything available. What also needs to happen is, even though Straight has identified securities for us to pledge, that needs to be confirmed by the CSDPs or committed to. So we still need a mechanism for that to be finalized, in which that gets auto-committed on, basically to allow us to run this as part of the end of day process that doesn't take forever and ever. So we then receive that information back from Straight, which is your committed securities. Once we know what the securities are, now we can calculate what is left over for us to take in FX. We go to the clearing members and they tell us what is for each of the clients, what do they have available in FX. And once we've received that information back, we then calculate what is left and what should we be asking for in ZAR. We will then aggregate all of the different clients' payments, and we send those payments then to your authorized dealer and your settlement bank to pay the FX, the different currencies, and then to ZAR. So we're calling firstly for securities, which we believe is the most efficient, and then FX, and then finally ZAR. If we could just have a look at an example quickly, just to maybe put down some numbers for you. So if we calculate a number of 300 on the initial margin, we go to the clearing member says yes, he's happy, that's what he's got as well. We apply, in this case, I've applied a 33% minimum ZAR amount. So we say 100 of that 300 must be in ZAR. So for securities, you are allowed to pledge 200. We go to Straight, but Straight says there's only 130 available. We then go and calculate, so from the 130, how much is there available for FX? What is left, which is 70. In this case, the clearing member says, even though I can pledge 70 in FX, the client only has FX worth 30, so that's all the different currencies. Then we go and calculate what do we have to call in ZAR for that client. We aggregate that again to the clearing member levels. And then that is what we ask for from the authorized dealer and the settlement bank. So you can see here we started off, the collateral value is then made up of your securities plus your FX plus your ZAR, which adds up to 300, which is this initial margin requirement. Maybe just something on FX. Today, as I think I mentioned at the start, if you're a foreign-based client and you want to post your collateral, your USDs will, by your authorized dealer, you have to convert that into ZAR, which will then flow to the JSE. We want to change that so that these accounts, so the trading member, the clearing member, as well as the JSE, now also have a foreign account for FX. So the JSE will then send the margin requirement all the way down to the client, and then we'll get the FX and the ZAR payments coming through. We've got this dotted arrow here just to indicate that there will always be a ZAR component, so we can't get away from that, but we're now also bringing in the possibility for you to post that FX. You don't have to convert it into ZAR. Looking at the intraday process, which we think is going to start at about either 11 or 12, we still have to finalize that. The main aim here is to, as we said, is to allow you to facilitate how you make up your margin requirement. So we're trying to look at your substitution of the makeup, and it's either release securities by paying more cash, or it's release cash by pledging more additional securities. And then throughout the day, what we allow you to do is still to substitute the one security for the other. So that will happen automatically on the straight side. Every now and again we will get an update of that. And also what will happen here as part of your regular intraday processes is that if the value of the security drops and there's more securities, trade will automatically pledge more. But the ability for you to get cash released or get your securities released, that we only do as part of a specific batch process, let's say between 11 and 12. So I quickly want to take you through just a flow of that, maybe just to show you how that would work. So we start off with a market participant during the morning indicating to Straight that he wants to withdraw some of his securities, or there's some type of action that's happening on his account at Straight. And that happens up until 11, and that at 11, when our batch process kicks off, we then, from Straight, we get the net of that, of all the activities. So now we can see what's happening on that account, and now we can start processing that. So the first thing we do is from Straight side, we get a consolidated request for each of the client. So even though a lot of things might have happened here during the morning, ultimately he only wants to withdraw his security. The net effect is he wants to withdraw securities or wants to pledge more cash, whatever the case may be. We then send these requests to the clearing members per client. The clearing member has to either accept or approve those withdrawals, because the clearing member will have to pay that amount if he approves them. He can reject them as well, obviously. And there will be a time frame for the clearing member to get back to us, and we're looking for an automated process on that. The JSE then receives back all of the approves and rejects. Now it generates a payment to the clearing member. And then here you can see it generates the payment to the cash payment. This can then either be, so this is in ZAR, the ZAR payment. It could also be a release of cash or a release of FX. We receive back the confirmation of the cash that we asked for. Once we've got the cash and we know that everything is settled, then we can go back to Straight and we tell them we did get the cash. We are now happy that you, if in this case, released the securities. So that's the process we're looking at. I can't see us changing too much on this at this point. There's quite a number of limitations that we have to deal with, and this is what we think. And we think it caters quite nicely for your securities, your FX, and the fact that you want to typically pledge as much securities as you've got, and then maybe some FX, and then only lastly ZAR. Like I've just mentioned now, so we typically want to release ZAR first, so allow you to pledge as little as possible ZAR. And if your ZAR, the minimum value has been still covered, you can then look at the makeup of FX and securities. So what we do throughout the day, on the Straight side, so you can substitute one security for another. If you've got a need to use the one security, you've committed it somewhere else, you can pledge that or just swap that immediately on the Straight side. So there's no requirement for you to come to the JSE and get that approved. As long as you are swapping one eligible for another eligible, Straight will allow you to do that immediately. And obviously the values will have to be in sync. What the JSE will do is we'll send updated prices to Straight throughout the day as we get them. Our system will get them every 15 minutes, and we'll see how often we still send them to Straight. I don't think we need them to be updated as regularly, but it is still an option. We're still looking at that. We also have intraday the collateral top-ups. If the value of a security drops or increases, Straight immediately will go and balance that out so that you're back to your original requirement. If the value of the security drops and there's no other securities left for you, then what Straight will do is it will generate a cash call. So it'll tell the JSE, go and call for more ZAR or FX because your security value has dropped. But obviously that cash call we can only process as part of an end of day or as part of a batch call. And that is, in a nutshell, our collateral solution. Is there any questions at this point? Maybe for Martin as well.
Okay, guys, if you have any questions, you are welcome to email us at ITaC. At ITaC@jsc.co.za if you have any questions, and we'll make sure that we get back to you. Please join us for eats and drinks. To the guys on the webinar and the teleconference, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, they can't hear me. Okay, no questions from the guys on the teleconference and webinar? Nothing. Okay, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you next week, Wednesday.